Greetings, everyone. Mohanji. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to share a little bit about my spiritual journey today. And just to start back a ways, I was in college. I went to what's considered to be a pretty good school. Somebody said I should name it. I'm not, I don't usually say, but MIT. And so, that was a long time ago when I was smart. And so I had an experience, though. It was like an emotionally traumatic experience that was had to do with a relationship. And something clicked inside my head that shifted my perception. And I will admit to doing some recreational drugs in college days. And so the best way I could describe it was a little bit like being stoned, but it wasn't funny and it wasn't fun. And so I thought something was wrong with me. And so I went through some traditional ways to deal with all of that ultimately always made me feel worse rather than better. And but I continued with my life. I finished school, went to worked in New York City, which was not my cup of tea. But it was my gateway to getting a job in California. And when I got to California, the boss's secretary was, you seem like you need to learn about meditation. So, dude, you're a little stressed out here, something like that. So I ended up getting initiated into Transcendental Meditation, TM. That was probably 1975 or 6. And so, for years I was kind of on and off, and then skip forward to 1979, my job was actually taking me back and forth past the Oakland ashram of Swami Muktananda. And he was in Oakland that year. And I had a coworker who asked me to come check out the programs. And I was like, Guru, no way, forget about it. And so, all those months came and went. I picked up a little flyer. And that was more than a flyer. It was my a little newsprint magazine, almost like that had the full schedule of where Muktananda was going to be appearing, and the stories or explanations, really, of Guru and mantra and Kundalini, Shaktipat, all this. It was like opening up a new world. And I put it on a stack of papers, never got around to it, and eventually piled a bunch of other stuff on top of it, things to read when I get a chance that I never got. And so months went by, and one night I would just remember that was sitting in the pile, buried, and I decided it was time to look at it. And so I started reading all the material that was in there, and I was getting high as a kite just reading about all this. I had a little dog at the time, Bebop, and I was living alone. And so I looked down at my dog, and he's looking up at me with these humongous brown eyes, and I'm going like, "Are you the guru?" And then I go, blah, blah, blah. Whoa, what's going on here? So fast forward, I ended up going to a program at the ashram. I had a really powerful meditation, and it was a totally different experience. I learned about Om Namah Shivaya because it was like, here's our mantra. It's up on the front of the hall where everybody could see it, and I had this secret TM mantra. You don't tell anybody. And I thought, that was kind of cool. And the next morning, I just started using Om Namah Shivaya for meditation. And a couple nights later, I had this dream. I was with some old guys around a table. And I said, I just found out about this Swami Muktananda. What do you think? And I get all these big smiles, and I'm very good. And I don't know if it was even in English, but that was the impression. And I woke up and I realized that the man if you can call him that was sitting across from me was Bhagwan Nityananda, Muktananda's guru. And well, I was like, of course he's going to tell me to go for it, because they're connected in the same path. But I went for it, and then I did an intensive, and a few weeks later, I was visiting my parents back in Iowa, and I was sitting at breakfast one morning, and suddenly I saw this shimmering blue light around my parents' heads, and I was like, well, that's not normal, and I'm not going to say anything about my experience right now, but I've heard about auras. Maybe that's an aura, I mean, back in those days, nobody was hardly even talking about auras yet. So as I was flying back to California, I remember it was a New Year's Eve, and I was like, this was 1979. I just decided while I was still on the flight, I'm going to find out where Muktananda is, and I'm going to go spend time with him as soon as I can. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Miami, and I met Baba then in January 1980. And so part of what unfolded for me and why I'm bringing all this up, besides the fact that it really connected me with this tradition, these traditions from India in a much more powerful way than I had been before, was that as I had more of an understanding of the Kundalini, I started to realize that the context of the experience that I had back in college was that I had most likely had like a partial Kundalini awakening that was inexplicable. Nobody knew had any context for it. And so suddenly it was like, instead of, being weird, I was normal, at least within the context of being connected with the spiritual path and understanding Kundalini and so forth. So then lots of things happened after that. I mean, it was my introduction. The very first night I walked into the Oakland ashram, that was my first time I ever heard kirtan. And that blew me away. And many of you know now how connected I am with the Bhakti tradition. And I just totally got into the whole having a guru thing, and then Muktananda passed away in 1982. I started on several paths simultaneously. I was kind of waiting to see what happened with the successors. Everybody that was connected with Muktananda was like, wow, is there going to be any Shakti? I mean, these guys haven't even been Swamis that long. But the Shakti was there. I mean, I was actually went to Honolulu, which was the first program that the two successors had in the U.S. And I stayed on that path for some time. Over the years, I got a little disenfranchised, and I had another dream that ultimately took me to another path, which I was on for quite some time, and meaning decades. And so now I'm really jumping forward, because this is time to get closer to where I finally met Mohanji, which was one of those definitely meant to be. There's absolutely no question about it. The synchronicity around how all of that happened is just makes it like a whack upside the head. There's no way you can say it wasn't meant to be. And so in late 2015, I had never been to India. All these decades, I'd never been to India. I've had a lot of health problems all the way since college when I had mono. I don't think I've ever since then woke up on a day and said, wow, I'm feeling really good and refreshed and invigorated and ready to go. But I've managed, and I've had other things, pituitary tumor. I had surgery for a couple of years after meeting Muktananda. But by then I already started to have some understanding, It was just like, there's just another experience to go through. So I went through it, coming out of from the surgery, which wasn't terribly successful. And that's another story. My parents had come out to be with me in California. And according to them, the first thing when they wheeled me into the room, my room after the surgery, and they were there waiting, it was like, so how are you guys doing? And I was all drugged up, so I don't actually remember saying that, but apparently that was the space I was able to come from at that time. So then, anyway, let's come back forward to 2015. I would have dreams with Muktananda, then I had dreams with a successor, and I had dreams with another teacher, and I don't want to get into all the details of all that because we have an hour, and I could take 3 or 4 probably. So suddenly, when Muktananda left the body, I never had another dream of him, and Bhagavan Nityananda never had a dream after that one in late 1979. And then suddenly in 2015, late 2015, I had within the space of a couple of weeks, 2 dreams with Swami Muktananda and one with Bhagavan Nityananda. And the one with Muktananda, one of them, the first one was, wait a minute. I'm sitting here. It was just him and me, and we're sitting next to each other, but like perpendicularly. And he's not in the body. How am I sitting here with Bhagavan Muktananda? The one with Nityananda was in this large. It was like a diner in this huge stable, and I wasn't there with any awareness that he was supposed to be there or going to be there, but at one moment I looked up, maybe for my food or something, and I ended up seeing that he's sitting there, and I'm going like, oh my God, I have not seen Bhagavan Nityananda since I had that dream with him in 1979. I mean, I had this awareness in the dream. All these amazing things have happened since then, because when he said go for it, I went for it. And I have to tell him, all these amazing things. And so I'm kind of trying to scoot by people and get closer to him. And of course, I'm all the way at the opposite end of the table. And at some point, I'm thinking somebody's going to have to take a picture of me with him because nobody's going to believe it, But I was just bursting with all this stuff that I want to say. Oh my God, my life has been so transformed, And as I got up close to him, not an eyelash, not a molecule had moved on his body the entire time. And I was just like, what could I possibly say that makes any difference to him? So I stopped it. I was just like, oh, okay, thank you, namaste. But I think at that point the dream faded. So somehow things started gelling with me that it's like, all this is happening for a reason. It's time for me to go to India, and I need to pay my respects to my first guru and his guru. And so I made plans to attend a yatra with some other Westerners, going primarily to Vrindavan and Rishikesh. But that was going to be like 2 weeks. And I was like, if I'm going to go all the way to India after all these decades, I'm going to spend more time there. And I want to go to Ganesh Puri, which is where Muktananda's and Bhagavan Nityananda's Mahasamadhi shrines are. And so I knew Muktananda's Samadhi shrine was inside an ashram that I figured there's probably some kind of a trick to how you will go to visit. You can't just waltz in. So I did an internet search. How to visit Swami Muktananda's Mahasamadhi shrine in Ganesh Puri. And the first link that I clicked on took me to Mohan's Universe, which I think has been renamed now. It was a blog site, and a blog that just talked about a small group of people that were visiting Ganesh Puri and visiting Muktananda's and Nityananda's Samadhi shrines with Mohanji. And I'm like, who the heck is Mohanji, and why is he going to Muktananda's Samadhi shrine? I mean, everybody that I knew that, had any kind of a connection back in the days that I was participating was somebody that had a name that ended in Ananda. And so I went to the website. There was a link to the website, and I started just exploring the website and watched some videos, read Mohanji's story, and I was fascinated. I was like, he's so clear. He's so focused on liberation, which was something that was not really the case with the path that I'd been on for a couple of decades. I think I was missing that at some level, and at least not in a way that I was getting it. So, and then I discovered that he gave satsang in English, and I'm like, and then I discovered that he gave Shaktipat. I was like, which Muktananda used to do. I'm like, I wonder if I can meet this fellow. I mean, I wasn't looking for another guru. I wasn't. I mean, I was on this other path. I wonder if I can meet him when I'm in India. And so, of course, as the stars would have it, there was a weekend program scheduled somewhere near Mumbai. Starting the day after my yatra finished. Perfect timing. Couldn't have been more perfect. And so I wrote, can I attend this? It was actually Madhu probably responding, and he was my, first connecting with somebody there in India and in Mumbai. But to go back to, I was like, well, I still don't know how to visit Muktananda's. I got lost in this whole website experience and watching videos and like, okay, I got to meet this guy. But I have no idea how to visit Muktananda Samadhi Shrine yet. So I went back to my search and found a link that had specific details about hours and stuff looked like. So I clicked on that. Sure enough, in the weekends, certain times and so forth, you can go in and visit the Samadhi Shrine. So I had that information. Then I realized that this was some kind of a retreat center. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go to Ganeshpuri. Maybe it's a place I can stay. And I click on it. And it takes me to the homepage. And here's this image of this beautiful landscaping and a dome and all that. It's Fire Mountain Retreat Center. And in a little town called Nimboli, just across the Tanza River from Ganeshpuri. And I saw this picture that was the same picture that was being used for the retreat, the weekend program with Mohanji, that was somewhere near Mumbai. They didn't say where it was, but it was like, oh, that's exactly where this weekend program is going to happen. I want to go there anyway. So those kinds of synchronicities were happening. And if I fast forward a few months, it gets even wilder. Then I posted on Facebook, I'm thinking about, planning on going to India, and I'm excited, and I'm, blah, blah. And a friend that I knew that knew my connection back to Muktananda days was one of the first people. She lives in Europe now. Was one of the first people to see and comment, and she said, "I've been all over India, and Ganeshpuri is the most powerful place I've ever been. You have to go there, and you should check out Fire Mountain Retreat Center." And I'm like, "Yeah, I already found him, and I'm already planning on it. I've already emailed him." Yeah. So that kind of synchronicity was happening. I'm going to jump forward just a minute because I'll probably forget if I wait and try to put it in chronological order. I went back to India in December. That was actually met Mohanji in March of 2016. In December of 2016, I went back to India. I was like, then I couldn't get enough of it. And there was a 10-day program with Mohanji in Shirdi. But we went to a few places. My wife traveled with me that time. We went to a few places first and started in Ganeshpuri. And when I got to Fire Mountain, which we decided to stay at again, I got introduced to a woman who turned out to be one of the main owners of Fire Mountain Retreat Center, who was my coworker in 1979 that was trying to convince me to go visit the Muktananda programs. And that's like in the mind-blowingly small world category. So, okay, coming back to then I did my trip to India, had an amazing experience. I ended up going to Ganeshpuri at the beginning of my trip so I could spend more time. and visit especially Muktananda Shrine, which was only on the weekend, and Mohanji's program was going to be on a weekend, so I didn't want to miss any of that. Connected up with other Westerners to have amazing experiences that is for another day. And then at the end of roughly a month was the weekend program where I came back to Fire Mountain and met Mohanji. And this is where I'll finally make an effort to see if I can figure out the share and find that. And so I don't know, this little picture-in-picture thing I can probably get rid of, but especially because it's sitting on top of Mohanji. Let me see if I can just ditch that thing. Okay, it says I'm talking. Well, I know that. I'm the only one on the Zoom meeting, so it has to be me. That's better. So I'll keep talking while this picture is up here. This is obviously Mohanji giving Shaktipat. This is in the dome at Fire Mountain Retreat Center. And I had offered, when I first found out that I was going to be attending the program, I informed what turned out to be Madhu that, I do kirtan. I've been leading kirtan for a long time, and I'll have a guitar with me. And I'd be happy to offer up some chanting during the weekend. So that was, he said, or whoever was responding, may not have been him, said, well, just bring your guitar. We'll see what happens. And then, so the first time that Mohanji walked in, it was just, I was kind of in this just checking it all out mode. I didn't really think that much about what was happening. I was happy to be there, and I was surprised that it was a smaller group than I might have expected. When I booked the event, I thought, and maybe he gives satsang in English, but maybe in India he doesn't, and so I was actually surprised when the satsang started and it was in English. And I was like, I would have been happy just to be here and be in the energy. That was what I had in mind when I signed up, but this is better yet. And it just seemed, he was so welcoming, so warm and loving. And somehow, whenever there was a meal break, there would be, I would even wait. I'd make a point of I don't have to be in any hurry to get food. I'll wait till the end. And, so I'd be like one of the last people to get food. And then I would go up, there was a series of picnic tables that people would sit at. And invariably there'd still be a seat at the table that Mohanji was sitting at. And he'd say, Natesh, please come sit. And so I felt very welcome, and that was beautiful. And the people that I met there just really turned into some wonderful friendships over the years. And it hasn't been that many years, compared to how long I've been on the path. But that's a beautiful thing. And so I did end up offering some chanting a couple of times. One of the times when people were having one-on-ones with Mohanji, which sometimes can happen with some of the smaller retreats. And I didn't really have any questions when it was my turn, but I was keeping everybody busy chanting in the meantime. And when it was my turn, I just said, I'm just delighted to be here. I don't have any questions. If there's anything you'd like to share with me or suggest to me, I'd be happy to hear it. And he suggested a couple of mantras and said, pick one. He said, it was Bhagavan Nityananda that brought you to me. And that was plainly obvious from how this all happened to begin with to me. And so then on the last day of the retreat, and the image that I showed was that we were coming back from a break, I think in the morning on Sunday, and he said, Natesh, I haven't heard your music or your chanting yet. And I said, well, I love to chant, so anytime. And he said, well, I'm going to give Shaktipat now, and I would like you to chant while I give Shaktipat. And I was so honored. I felt blessed. I mean, I know what a powerful thing the Shaktipat is, and to be able to offer the musical background experience while people receive Shaktipat was, I felt very blessed to have that opportunity. But I said, he said, why don't you come and get Shaktipat? And I said, please let me go at the end. I would like to be functional if you want me to chant. And I had no idea what would happen. So he said, fine. And so that's how it unfolded. And then when I had the Shaktipat, I could feel the Kundalini, the energy like coursing through me, and I'd kind of like get these little jerks of the what I associate with the movement of the Kundalini. And so, it was all clear to me. I also was moving into these altered states that have become a little bit more, it's part of my experience around being with the masters that I've felt connected with. And it's one of those things that's like one of the signs that reassures me that there's something that's seriously important going on. And so then that weekend ended. I went back. It turned out that he was going to be in Virginia a few weeks later. And I wasn't originally planning on going, but after having that experience of that weekend there, I was like, I think I need to spend more time with Mohanji. And I was able to book the retreat and went there and met a bunch of people from the USA that are connected with Mohanji, the USA team, and a lot of people that live in the East for the first time. And I lost my driver's license. I'd flown in a day early in order to save a little money on the flight, even after paying for a hotel one night. But somehow I lost my driver's license on the way there, never to be seen again. And so when I went to rent the car the next morning, I couldn't rent the car because I didn't have a driver's license. So after trying to sort all that out, I ended up getting the program late. I'd phoned back to my wife, Monty, to say, please overnight my passport because I need a way to get on a plane on Monday to come home. And then at dinner that Friday night of this weekend program in Virginia, I again came, no hurry for the meal. And as I was walking to these long tables in Yogaville to find a place to sit, there's a seat open to Mohanji, and he says, Natesh, come and sit. And so I sit down, and within a few minutes, we're enjoying the meal, and many of you know Sanjay Acharya from Canada, Toronto area. He was sitting directly across from me. And Mohanji said, Natesh, what are you doing after this? And I said, well, I'm flying back to Arizona on Monday. And he said, why don't you come to Canada with me? And I'm thinking, because I'm flying back to Arizona on Monday, in my head. And so, but, he had it all planned out. So he says, Sanjay drove down here from Toronto, so you could ride back with him and help him drive. That's how you could get there. In fact, you can stay with him and his wife for a week. And I'd only met Sanjay for like 10 seconds as an introduction because we were staying in the same room. But I mean, he certainly didn't know me and I didn't really know him. And but the next words out of Mohanji's mouth was, in fact, you can stay with him and his wife Alpa for a week. And so you have a place to stay. And Sanjay's like, oh, please, Natesh, come and stay with me and my wife Alpa. We would love to have you. I'm like, thank you. I was like, do I need to actually think about this? And so, still trying to like not go. I said, but Mohanji, there aren't any programs even scheduled until next weekend. And he said, well, you're going to be with me. And I was like, what? This is sound better all the time, and that was enough. I mean, I looked to see what it would cost to change my plane ticket and all that, and got it all planned out to go to Canada and spend those days. And so I got to see if I can shift the pictures here while we continue to talk and still be with you and explain what the heck was happening at the time. So I needed my passport to go across the border into Canada. And that didn't dawn on me right away, because in the old days, I hadn't been to Canada for a long time. In the old days, you didn't need a passport, but that all changed after 9/11. And so, of course, I would not have had my passport with me had I not lost my driver's license. And I think, at some point, I realized that I would not have been able to cross the border if I hadn't lost my driver's license and had my passport on the way to me. But by Sunday, at the end of the program, this was kind of like the first thing that gave me a real clue that, there's more than meets the eye, so to speak, when it comes to being around Mohanji and what his expanded consciousness is capable of. So I was standing maybe 20 feet away, whispering, facing with my back to Mohanji, saying I was thinking about saying something to Mohanji, but I'm having second thoughts. There's no way he could hurt me. Just no way. But immediately after I said that, he hollers out, "So Natesh, what do you want to tell me?" Well, I was having second thoughts, but since you've asked, I guess I have to say it. Now that you've got this all worked out for me to go to Canada, would you please rematerialize my driver's license? And he just laughed. And I never did see that license, like I mentioned earlier. I had to get a new one when I got back to Arizona. Helped Sanjay drive to Toronto without a driver's license, but I had my passport, so I got into Canada. And now we'll do. I have a few pictures from that time in Canada, but I think this is maybe the one that is the wildest. And that was one day. It was Mila's birthday, Mohanji and Davey's daughter's birthday, and there was this indoor ride. Like a little carnival area that had the rides, and they had a carousel and stuff. And so there was someone that was taking pictures, and I was like, please don't take any pictures when my horse is higher than Mohanji's. And I would tend to try to lean down. But anyway, then I wound up only being able to see that picture out of whatever pictures were taken. And there I was, up higher than Mohanji. So I wasn't expecting to ride the carousel with my guru. I mean, I do think of Mohanji as my guru. This is the relationship. People have different relationships with Mohanji. They think of him as a friend or father or mother. And for me, I needed to get back into the mode of having a guru who was going to lead me to liberation. And so that's the nature of my relationship with Mohanji. So after Canada, then about a month later, went to Bosnia. And I have a few pics from that I'll share with you. A couple of them are just kind of, one was silly, but there's an explanation for that. And so I'll just show the picture first, and then I need to, let's just go back to the other picture because I didn't share in between. like I said, this is all getting new for me with a share. It's easier to apparently have somebody else do it for you. But so there we are on the carousel. And actually, he was sitting on the bench behind with talking to someone that was just on a fixed bench. And the first time it went around, I'd gone to get coffee or drinks of some sort for Mohanji and Davey, and I wasn't able to get on the carousel because I was already moving, so I had to wait for it to stop. Then I got on, and I got on the horse that you see me on, and like 5 seconds later, Mohanji was sitting on the horse next to me, and I was like, okay, this was not expected. I was not expecting that. Fast forward to Bosnia, and if you ever have a chance to visit the pyramids there, it's really pretty amazing. There are people that think that it's all bogus, but if you actually go there, there's no way you can think that. One of the stops, I think this was on the way to the top of the pyramid or the moon, maybe, we sat for meditation. Mohanji asked me to come sit next to him again. And I'm showing this picture to show you how goofy I look when I'm sitting next to Mohanji meditating and the energy's trying to shoot up to the top of my head. And so this pic is one where he had asked me to do a couple of a specific seva when we were in Virginia, and so there were times that he would take me aside to discuss something. And so I just, when I first saw this picture, I mean, I had no idea I was in that sort of bob of receptivity, but it seemed like it's just, to me, the vibration of that photo is lovely. Then we got to the top of the Pyramid of the Sun another day, and I have no idea, don't remember what we were looking at. But it took me a long time. It was like the never ending, never declining, always inclining road to the top of the Pyramid of the Sun. And it seemed like it took me forever to get up there, and way longer than anybody else, except for a few people who went up by car. And so when I finally got there, the Mohanji was like, "Oh, Natesh, we've been waiting for you." I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure." But I got here, you know. And my face looks a little red. That's probably from straining all the way up the hill. And but then there's this. And so I have to share about this one. You can see the look on Mohanji's face, a very mischievous smile, because he knows he just did something. And what he did was, I was standing on the outside. It wasn't, not trying to get close. And he says, "Natesh, come into the center of the circle." And so I started walking in. I sort of walked in front of him, and I thought that I was just supposed to feel, somebody had said this was the spot where the energy was strongest. There's supposed to be energy shooting off of the top of the pyramid that's measurable. And somebody decided this was the place where it was the strongest. So I thought he was calling me in to experience that energy. And I'm going to stop the share. And so what happened was, as I walked in front of him, I was still just kind of like standing perpendicular in front of him. And there's not enough of my torso here to see, but just imagine that with me facing 90 degrees from him and standing in front of him, he took his hands just as I got in front of him and went like that on my front and back of my chest, like right in the heart chakra area. And so the picture is like, oh, what was that? Because I thought I was just going in to experience the energy of the pyramid. Now a whole different kind of thing was happening that was way unexpected. I mean, I had not seen him do that before or since, actually. And so I put that picture I found and put it up on as my Facebook profile pic last year sometime for a while. And it was shortly after that I saw Mohanji in Canada. I'm jumping through time a little bit again because of 2019. But I because I had seeing the pic, and it reminded me. I was, I found a pic of that moment when you had struck the front and back of my chest at the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, and I said, I certainly didn't know that was going to happen in that moment when I got there, and he commented, and I said something like, and I don't suppose I'll ever know, and because I'd never talked about it after that with him ever, even though I'd spent some time here and there. And so he said, yeah, I mean, you don't know, they could have removed 50 lifetimes of karma. And I was like, thank you very much, UNG. I just, these things are strange, but I'll take it. It was 50 years of lifetimes, or 10 or 1, whatever it is, it's all good. So then that was Bosnia. Bosnian pyramids are amazing. The next thing that happened actually has a lot to do with, again, having a better understanding and appreciation of who Mohanji is. And that was June, about a month later after the Bosnian pyramids. I'd gone to California. And I started having some small dizziness spells. And they would self-resolve. That'd be like, maybe 20 minutes. I was at this weekend conference and offering up some chanting. And it was a place that had hot springs. It was in Desert Hot Springs. And so one night I was late. I was walking to go to the springs, and I started feeling, it's a little bit, I'd describe it as like when you first get off of a boat back onto land, and it's just not quite feeling normal yet. And so it was like that. It was pretty subtle, and it disappeared. I mean, by the time I got out of the hot spring, I felt normal again. But it happened a couple more times over the next couple of days. And then ultimately, a couple of days later, I'm driving back 500 miles alone from California. And there was a call from Ganesh, the head of the USA team. And he said, Mohanji has been asking about you. So I felt I need to check on you. Are you doing okay? And in that moment, I wasn't even remembering the dizziness. I was just driving through California, and I was feeling fine. And I said, I don't know why he would ask about me, because there was no problem, So I got home late that night. I'd had another dizziness spell as I got out of the car. And I got to bed late because of the long drive. I actually had to nap partway. I was in Phoenix, maybe. I ended up sleeping for an hour and a half. It was like 2:30 a.m., I think, when I got home. I got up the next day, and I started to say something to Mani, and burst, it was like coming out like that. I'm like, oh boy, yeah. We had thought maybe, or she more than me had thought, because I'm thinking, lots of things can cause dizziness. This was clearly now stroke stuff happening. Off to the emergency center. They get me all hooked up. My pulse is dropping below 40, which they're like alarmed about. They wouldn't even let me go to the restroom on my own. And then, of course, this is on a weekend, so I go to the hospital and have to wait a couple of days before any doctors come. And it turned out I had an angiogram, and they were like, no, the heart's okay, that's not it. But I guess you would call him, maybe he's a neurosurgeon, but anyway, he came in to see what was going on, and he had, with my hand on my thigh like this, so it's kind of weird. It had it like flip like this. And with my right hand, I could do that really fast. My left hand was like thump, thump, as I could just barely shift it. Then he had me like check my nose and point to wherever he's moving his finger in the air. And with my right hand, I could do that no problem. With my left hand, it was like, and he goes, you've had a stroke. And so they did an MRI, and they proved that. And then, of course, like a lot of things with my body, even having a stroke, it was in a weird place. But so I ended up going into rehab. I had I took some video from the rehab hospital showing that I could chant after I could start playing guitar. I lost some of my left side movement, and even the left side of my mouth was drooping. And even after I'd recovered, the first I could not play the guitar because I couldn't move my hand enough to do it. And like a day later, I could slowly form chords, and the day after that, the guitar is important. Playing guitar is important to me because it's kind of how I support my chanting and this devotional practice of associated with bhakti and the chanting of the divine name. And so, not being able to play the guitar would be kind of a bummer. And then it's like the next day I could start to move do chord changes with some decent speed, and the next day it was almost like it didn't happen. It was just like the recovery was so fast. I don't think that everybody was blown away by how fast it was. Even the speech therapist, by the time I actually, in the rehab place and got scheduled and had my first speech therapy, she was like, "You just keep talking. There's no reason for us to have any sessions because you're doing fine." Just about everybody that was there was being wheeled in for the meals, and I was walking over there. In fact, the first night I was there, I walked out of the room, started walking down the hall, and the night nurse is hollering, "Mr. Ramsey, what are you doing?" And I'm going like, "I'm just going for a walk." "You can't leave the room without somebody with you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, back to the room I go. And anyhow, then I get up for my meal, and they're going like, "Are you sure you're a patient?" So I show them my wristband, and they're going, "Okay, here's your meal," So some months later, a couple of years later, actually, then another 2018 program in Virginia. There was a group of us from Sedona had gone to a program there, and we had an opportunity to meet the group with Mohanji, and I started, somehow it came up something about Mohanji's awareness, and I started to share this experience and how he was, from halfway around the world, he knew that something was going on with my health before I even did. And he kind of looked at me and he said, "Well, it was a little more than that." And I was like, "Okay." He said, "We kind of spread out the effects." He says "we" a lot, it's like him and other masters of the tradition, so that he's takes less credit for this stuff and gives the credit somewhere else. But, so which explained why, I was having these little episodes of dizziness that were so minor that I didn't even realize until the speech was impacted that I was having that kind of a problem. So that was in 2016. Then later that year, like I said, we went to Shirdi, and I think I have a couple pics to share with you from that. And that whole trip was really amazing. It's just easier for me to start with a picture that I was on before and then forward it. So thank you for bearing with me. This one I want to share with you just because it was, I ended up putting this on Facebook too, and I put a little description with it that was something like, "Yeah, I had a thought. I had a thought. I got it. Wait a minute. Oh no, don't have it. Yeah, no, gone. Sorry," because that's kind of what this picture looks like to me. And then this is just one that I love because I've had this opportunity to chant with the group at the retreats different times or programs. And in this case, this was before I had my headset mic, and you can see somebody holding a mic there in the corner. I tried to not have that be too visible, but it's just the trip to Shirdi and with Mohanji's connection to Shirdi Sai Baba was really profound. We did a Homa, the going to the temple, the spending time in Dwarkamai together, all just really, really amazing experiences. And clicked on stop share. There you are. And so there was one moment that was really interesting to me. I had picked up, because I'd been in Ganeshpuri again with Mani, and we were going to this program together in India. She had not shown a real strong interest in Mohanji after I came back from India. But when I said I was going back, and she said, well, if you're going back, I'm going this time. I'm going to be spending 10 days with Mohanji. I says, well, then I'll spend 10 days with Mohanji. And so we were just getting out of the car when we arrived, and she was getting something out of the car, and her back was towards the lobby of the hotel, the Jivanta hotel we stayed at there. And she's like, Mohanji's here. She could feel his energy, and she turned around, and he was right there in the lobby, like 20 feet away. So, but one of the interesting things that happened then in Shirdi was towards the end of it. I had the first time I went to India, I'd gone to a place where I'd seen an image. And I didn't know anything about Dattatreya, Lord Dattatreya, before connecting with Mohanji. Muktananda had never really talked about it, even though Bhagavan Nityananda's has this obvious connection, even considered an incarnation of Lord Dattatreya. And so that was all kind of new to me, but I'd seen this image with this three-headed figure, and below were images of Bhagavan Nityananda and Shirdi Sai Baba, and the third being that I had no idea who he is. And so I came to find out later that it was Alkakat Swami, or Swami Samarth. And the next time I went to Ganeshpuri, I ended up picking up a little murti. I'd gotten a murti of Shirdi Sai Baba and had Mohanji bless it on the first trip. And so now in second trip in December 2016, there was a little shop there, and I got about this yay high Murti of Dattatreya, and even a little smaller one of Swami Samarth. And I don't know what, Dattatreya, yes, but Swami Samarth, I was like, okay, I'm connecting somehow. So then at the very end of the Shirdi 10-day retreat, we were walking near Mohanji's room and saw all kinds of shoes there, and we're thinking, well, there are people in Mohanji's room, why not? So we kind of knock, and we're like, yeah, and he's like, come in. And then he announces to everyone that it's Datta Jayanti. And we were going to be spending some days with him in Chennai. And so I was going to wait, and I didn't do a one-on-one. I was going to wait till we were in Chennai and have him bless these murtis. But when he said that it was Datta Jayanti, I was like, oh, I have to go get something in my room. And so I brought these two murtis, and and asked him to bless them. And Dr. Treya, he blessed with his third eye, and then I gave him almost apologetically, it was like, sorry, if you don't mind, would you bless this murti of the Swami Samarth? I don't know anything about him, but I feel a connection. And so he blessed that too. And then a little while later, we took one more trip over to the area of the temple in Shirdi, and we stopped at a bookstore. And I wasn't watching that closely, but he picked up a book and gave it to one of the organizers and said, go buy this book. And so they come back with the book, and they said, give it to Natesh. Mohanji said, give it to Natesh. And I look at it, and it's a biography of Swami Samarth. that was there at the bookstore. And so I was like, well, I think that is a pretty strong indication that I do have a connection with Swami Samartha, that I had no idea why I was, making this connection, but that was like an affirmation. So I could probably go for another hour with the things that I was going to, I have sort of lined up a little list of experiences, but I had no idea how long any of this was going to take because I didn't actually run through it on any kind of a dry run, didn't really create the time to do that. But since we've run out of time, in effect, I think I'd like to just summarize by sharing a little bit about what I feel is my transformation as a result of connecting with Mohanji, especially being on the path this long. And the refocusing on the purpose of human life to experience moksha or liberation and ultimately dissolve has become, much more prominent. But there were also other indications. I've certainly shared enough stories that you get an idea of who I consider Mohanji to be. But he calls himself an ordinary man. But for those of us who have connected deeply with him, he's anything but. He certainly likes to appear ordinary and, do the Avadhuta in jeans kind of thing and do the sleeveless black tees sitting on a Harley Davidson and freaking people out. They're going like, that's not what a guru's supposed to be like. And he's like, you know what? I'm beyond the frames. And if people can't handle that kind of stuff, that's fine. Better luck next time. Those are my words. I don't think I've ever heard him say that. But it's kind of like, if people can come, people can go. It's all fine. And he gives and gives and gives. The humility is there. He goes to visit another master. There's no airs. He pranams. He doesn't expect anybody to treat him as anything special. And he doesn't particularly consider himself a guru either. But, if somebody, he says, if you choose to be a disciple, then I'm a guru for you, But other people have a relationship of friend or father or mother. I think maybe even I mentioned that earlier. And so, for me, it's such a profound experience and connection that was meant to be. And I had the great blessing to have the opportunity to get trained as a Mohanji Acharya. And all of us that are Acharyas are absolutely works in progress. I should speak for myself only. I certainly am. But it's an even deeper commitment and about living the teachings and adding value to society. And so living by example is the main way to teach, not actual teaching. And so with that, I think I've pretty much reached my hour, and I'm so delighted to take this trip down memory lane. There's a lot more that's happened with Mohanji that I can share perhaps another time. But I think this is a good place to take a break because we, other than getting trained as an Acharya, which happened last year, we're still back in pretty much in 2016. So there's more to share another time. Thank you all so much. It's been a joy to have this opportunity to connect with you all. Jai Mohanji.